Les. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask Les Stephen from Jetstar to join me here on the stage. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Jetstar Pacific, based in Japan. Les, come on stage, Les. Les began as a pilot in the USA 30 years ago, and he rose through the ranks to training captain, instructor, fleet manager, and then flight operations management. So he brings a wealth of technical and operational experience with him today. And he's also got a lot of background in safety, which of course, very, very important. He joined Jetstar in 2013. So Les, Jetstar Pacific, you've got 14 aircraft in service, you've got 10 on order. What's the strategy moving forward? You've got all these aircraft coming in, doubling your capacity pretty well. Is it on? Yeah.
I think to understand that our strategy going forward is to understand our history a little bit. I think you're aware that Jetstar Pacific is a very old airline. Actually, the original airline, Pacific Airlines, was founded back in the early 1990s, and which then Qantas subsequently bought into. And for many reasons, Vietnam Airlines inherited a 70% share of the airline in 2012, quite unexpectedly. So the current shareholders we have, Qantas and Vietnam Airlines and Jetstar Group, really came together in 2012. So I think at that time they looked to see what was the best thing to do with the airline. And as we've heard in the last couple of days, a lot of the presenters have talked about that low-cost carriers don't always do so well when they have legacy parents. But they looked around, and I think you would have to agree one exception to that rule is in Australia with the Qantas Jetstar brand. I think they've done it very well using a dual brand strategy against their competitors in Australia. So between 2012 and 2013, our shareholders studied that model, and they came out with a 5-year plan to implement a dual brand strategy in Vietnam. So that's where we've been a bit slow in getting that organized and going, but I think we're doing much better now. Over the past year, all of our flights are 100% code share with Vietnam Airlines, and we start international code share with them in the next couple of months. So that's our goal going forward, is to try to continue that dual brand strategy so that in Vietnam, we're part of Vietnam Airlines. We're their little LCC model, if you will, for certain travelers, and they carry the business travelers and other leisure travels, and that's our goal going forward. While at the same time, we're obviously refleeting, trying to get our costs down to the absolute minimum for competing in the market that's very price sensitive. So strategy going forward, fully implementing the dual brand strategy more effectively, and always cost control in such a price sensitive market.
And how does Jetstar, I mean, it's a Pan-Asian brand. What influence does Jetstar in Australia have on the kind of brand that you present there in Vietnam? I mean, is there a brand handbook or something, or is there an operational, what's the sort of relationship between the Jetstar Australia, if you like, and Jetstar in Vietnam?
Again, it's a very good relationship. It's 100% their brand, their image they like to project. We do have a lot of leeway to do what's necessary to operate in the local environment, because things can be quite different. But their ultimate goal at the end of the day is that the customer can't tell the difference. So as a good example, even here out of Singapore, we operate some of the flights to Saigon, and Jetstar Asia operates others. So we would like to make sure that the customer can't tell the difference if they're on a BK or BL flight or a 3K flight, vice versa. So that's the ultimate goal at the end, is to try to make it a seamless experience for the customer, so they always get the same experience no matter what part of the world they're flying in on Jetstar.
That's really interesting. And of course, and I think Jetstar Asia, based in Singapore, have something like 30 or 40 different code shares with different airlines sort of feeding into Changi. And is that something that Jetstar Pacific would also sort of ride on the back of, or sort of foster?
Absolutely. Well, they've done a great job of it here, I think, in Singapore. We've been a bit slower because we were initially trying to get the full code share going with Vietnam Airlines, but and then in the coming year and into 2018, we have plans to code share with about 10 additional partners. Big changes, I think, in that area. So yes, we agree that model works very well, and we'd like to see it at Jetstar Pacific as well.
Yeah. And how much of your distribution, I mean, we heard Les talking about, Patrick talking about Peach and saying that it's 93% direct. what's the sort of rough?
I think we're probably almost the opposite, although not quite that as bad. I think we generally run 25-30% as direct sales, but otherwise Vietnam is still, as you know, an evolving market, a developing market. It's very much a cash-based society, and travel agents still rule the world in Vietnam, very much like some countries of years ago. So they're still a big part of Vietnam, and we're trying to change that. I think when we Jetstar Pacific first started flying in Vietnam in 2009 was the first direct sales in Vietnam, but it's certainly been a slow evolution in Vietnam.
So it's early days, but I mean, and Vietnam has some unique characteristics. It's a very. Could you share some of those? I mean, obviously, agencies. I think there are something like 1,400 domestic small travel agents who are kind of outside of any agency systems. I mean, what other characteristics are there in that market?
Well, commercially, as you say, it's very much a travel agency-dominated market. Other things, I don't know that it's unique. It's very much as Ajay spoke to about India. I mean, we're very much like India in the fact that the road and rail infrastructure of the country is a bit lacking, shall we say. So almost similar to what he talked about, a travel from the north to the south of Vietnam by train would take you 36 to 48 hours, and by road would probably be an epic journey that you would write a book about. So travel is certainly the way to go. 2 hours, from Hanoi to Saigon and most of the other markets that way in Vietnam as well. Even a couple hours outside of Ho Chi Minh City. Flying will save you a significant amount of time versus driving. Some of the 1 hour flights that we make would be 8, 9, 10 hours by driving. So it's a market that's certainly lends itself to aviation, but at the same time, the infrastructure has been slow to keep up with the rise and growth of the airline. So that's one of our biggest challenges: is how do we grow in Vietnam with the infrastructure the way it is, and encourage the government and even the private sector to continue the investments necessary to bring that infrastructure up. I think a good example is most of the international carriers are aware of the 3 major airports in Vietnam, and perhaps a couple more that are listed for charters, but we have another 13 domestic airports that are essentially off the grid, shall we say, that are non-radar airports, very slow traffic in and out of those. Again, just a lot of work in the infrastructure. It makes it challenging for us to grow. So we have to be very careful how we bring aircraft in and deploy them in the market in such a way that they don't add to even more of that strain to the infrastructure.
And do the government there see flying as a sort of a luxury? Is it still in that mindset, or are they now seeing that actually it's an essential part of the economy?
And I don't think they see it as a luxury at all. I think they see it, as you say, as an essential part of the economy. They see it as, developing an airport is much quicker and cheaper than developing roads and rail in some places. So I think they see it as a way to help the country move forward quickly while they're developing the road and infrastructure network.
It's very interesting. And I guess the other thing that you have in Vietnam, of course, all the exchange controls. So as you're going more and more international, I guess that's going to repatriating funds, moving funds around, becomes something of an issue.
Yes, it is quite challenging. Vietnam, very similar to China in many respects. They have very strict currency control laws, especially transferring into foreign currencies. And as you eloquently said earlier, most everything we do in aviation is in a foreign currency. So it makes it challenging, but I mean, again, very much like China, you have to figure out ways to do business, and at the end of the day, you can certainly get it done, just a bit challenging in areas.
Thanks very much, Les. Okay, so thanks very much, Les. That's very interesting. Please stay up here, and can I ask the rest of the panel to come back on stage now and